Met fans, welcome back. Talkin Mets with Rob. How's everybody doing? Before I get started talking about is the MLB lockout over, don't forget guys, if you enjoyed this video, hit on that like button. If you enjoy my content, want to see more, want to get notified when I post my videos and when I go live, you guys know what to do. Hit on that subscribe button, everybody. Alright guys, so we saw Major League Baseball propose their first proposal offer to the Major League Baseball Players Association, but in recent days, Major League Baseball Players Association is coming up with a proposal to send over to the MLB owners. Now, we know the MLB owners and the Players Union have been at odds for many years. It's been slowly but surely gaining so much tension that we saw come to a head during the pandemic season when they couldn't even come to the amount of games to be played, salary that was going to be paid to the players, and so forth. There's a lot of things that have to get done that both sides have to agree upon so there not only can be spring training on time, but pitchers and catchers can be on time, because there is a fail-safe date that we'll talk about in a little bit, that if this deal does not get done by a certain date, there's a possibility we might start spring training late. If it goes a little further, the next date, spring training games could be missed. And worst case scenario, if it goes a little further than expected, where there's no CBA agreement, games during the season could be missed. So there's a lot to look into when it comes to, can this Major League Baseball lockout end very soon? I think that it took 40 days for the MLB owners to come up with a proposal to send to the Players Union. Now, it took the union about a week after they saw the owners' proposal to come up with their own. Apparently, they're supposed to be meeting on Monday. Let's hope we got some good news when it comes to these guys actually sitting in a room and not leaving after an hour. That would be nice. Because, let's be honest, if anybody understands negotiations, two parties have to stay in a room and continue to work at it and not just leave when they don't like what they hear. And it's kind of a cat and mouse game when it comes to the Players Union and the owners. It seems like as soon as they don't like what they hear, they walk out of the room. And you know what? These owners are businessmen. They should know better than that. You don't just walk out of a situation because you didn't like what you hear. It's the same thing with the union, the Players Union. There's a lot of business guys that are entailed. There's a lot of lawyers involved. You can't continue to walk out of negotiations when you don't like what you hear, because it causes even more of a rift and more problems down the road. So when I talked about it a few seconds ago, when it came to fail-safe dates, what exactly is that? So these are the dates that I came up with that kind of make the most sense, where we could possibly start spring training late, possibly miss spring training games, or possibly miss regular season games. It looks like this. So the first fail-safe date is February 1st. February 1st, if the deal does not get signed and ready to go and the CBA is agreed upon by both parties, there's a possibility that spring training could start later than usual. That's the first fail-safe date. The second fail-safe date is February 15th, 2 weeks after the first date. That, if the CBA does not be signed and agreed upon from both parties once again, there's a big possibility that spring training games could be missed because of the obvious reasons. If the players are still locked out, they are not going to be able to go into the facilities to start working out, start getting their arms ready, start getting their bat speed ready, their fielding ready. They can't do that in a team facility. So that not only pushes back spring training games that could be missed, pitchers and catchers might actually take a little longer to get into spring training to get ready. And that will entail missed spring training games. And the last fail-safe date that is on this list is February 21st. Basically, a little less than a week of the second fail-safe date, February 21st. If this does not get done by February 21st, there is a real big possibility that regular season games could be missed. And that's the biggest problem. We can deal with spring training start a little bit later as fans. We can deal with it at some point that some spring training games could be missed. But when regular season games can possibly be missed, that's when fans have the biggest problem. If February 21st, they don't come up with a CBA deal, the biggest problem of regular season games missed is they might not play those games. So you might have from 162 to 158 games, 156 games. That's a problem already. Ticket sales, owners losing money, teams losing money. That means players are going to lose money. They've missed regular season games. Players are not getting paid. So nobody is making money based off of regular season games. That's a problem for both sides. It's clear they don't want to do that, but let's be honest, these two sides are very freaking stubborn. And these fail-safe dates are the biggest dates that we have to look forward to make sure that spring training is on time. What do the MLB owners want? In their first proposal to the Players Union, they wanted these few things. Salary floor minimum at $100 million. There are 7 teams in Major League Baseball that has a salary, a payroll of under $100 million. 7 teams. And we can run off those teams, but we have an idea of who they are. But one of the lowest payroll teams is the Pirates and the Indians. I mean, they're not even over $40 million. That's a joke. 7 teams are under $100 million. What if those teams had to make that floor of $100 million? Not saying they would be great teams, but they would be more competitive. Which is what the players want, is to have every team have the capacity and the ability to compete. No more tanking. That's what they don't want. The second thing the owners want, to lower the luxury tax threshold from 210 to 180. The reason why the owners want the salary floor is so they can have a salary cap, so to speak, of a luxury tax threshold of $180 million. $20 million less than what it currently is right now. The owners also want to put in universal DH and 14 teams playoffs. This is not something that the owners directly want of those last two, because they want to put something on the table as an incentive for the players using to get other things that they want, which is the salary floor and the luxury tax getting lowered. So those are what the owners want as the main core economics that they want. They didn't talk about free agency. They didn't talk about service time. They didn't talk about arbitration eligible players and minimum salaries. They did not talk about nothing with that in their first proposal. So what do the Players Union want? A part of what they want as a whole, and probably what you're going to see in their proposal on Monday, they want this. No salary floor. That's an obvious reason, because if there's a salary floor, there's going to be a salary cap in quotation marks. And that would entail teams that are probably not wanting to go over that luxury tax to pay that luxury tax penalty. And the salary floor that the owners want is $100 million. Now there would be a salary cap, so to speak, and players don't want a cap, because if there's a cap, that means teams can't pay certain players a certain amount of money. So that's the first thing. The second thing is minimum salary increases. Now, what are they talking about with that? Minimum salary increases is when a player comes up and they're making the league minimum, which is around $550,000. The MLB Players Union wants it to go to $600,000, and incremental increases a little more than $25,000 that they currently have. At first, when they come up, the first year it's $550,000, then it goes to $575,000, $600,000. You get my point. So they want more of that. They probably want the minimum salary as they first come up closer to $600,000 and incremental increases of about $50,000 per year until they are arbitration eligible, which comes to our next point. Arbitration eligible players. They want to make arbitration eligible a little bit earlier than at the third year threshold, where players can actually get a bigger increase of the league minimum based on performance. And a lot of the times we heard that sometimes you heard Pete Alonso say that they were messing with the ball to keep numbers down, so when players become arbitration eligible, they wouldn't have to pay them as much because performance is down. So the players want arbitration eligible players to be a little bit sooner and more based on performance than actual, oh, well, it's not your time yet, so we're not going to talk about how good you did in year 1, but you weren't good in year 3. So that's the problem with the players, and that's why they want arbitration eligible earlier in the career of the younger players. The next one is service time manipulation. We've seen this across Major League Baseball. We've seen it with Kris Bryant with the Cubs, where he basically came up a week and a half after the season started, and the Cubs had another year of control because of the way they manipulated service time with that little loophole that was in the last CBA. That's a huge problem that I think the players want out. If the team calls up a player, that automatically starts his service time. There is no this date or that date, before or after. There should be no service time manipulation. If you bring up the player and he's a star player, as soon as he comes up, he starts his service time. Obviously, there's a minimum amount of games that he has to play to be considered a first year of service time, but that's understandable. But what the players don't want is teams holding back a player who should be up, who is basically wasting his time in the minor leagues, because they can keep him another year if they keep him down in AAA for a week and a half after the season started, and then bring him up after that little loophole date. That's what the players don't want. The last thing, teams tanking. Players don't want that, because if teams are tanking, that means they're not spending no money. They're not spending no money. That means less competition for free agents, less competition for trades. For, when there's only 4 teams that are looking to trade for a third baseman, now you don't have to worry about other teams. You got teams who might have all-stars who are not going anywhere, and they want to lose games, who are going to get rid of their best player because they don't want to pay them. And now they get traded, and that's the other problem. Teams tanking is a big thing. The Astros did it when basically their ratings on television was basically 0. We've seen the Marlins do this a lot. We've seen the Pirates doing it over and over again. Cleveland basically ripped apart their team. So many teams are taken just to, one, save money, 2, get draft picks, and when them draft picks actually turn out very good, they don't want to pay them. So Players Union wants no more teams to tank. Why I think the salary floor is a thing that's going to be heavily negotiated with the owners, because owners are going to come back to say teams are tanking, so let's start a salary floor so teams have to spend that much money. What the penalty is if the teams don't go over $100 million, there's no direct information about that, what type of penalty there would be. I'm assuming it would be a tax penalty that they would have to pay, which kind of messes up the purpose of a floor, because if a team like the Pirates don't want to go over $100 million and their tax penalty is 10%, they'll gladly pay that 10% so they can stay $40 million under the salary floor and pay that 10% tax. But we don't know exactly what the floor will be and the penalty will be for that. So between the MLB owners, what they want, and the MLBPA, what they want, the 2 things they're going to agree upon right away is universal DH and 14-team playoff. I myself don't like 14-team playoffs. I think it's basically half the league, and you don't want run-down bad teams making the playoffs. It's just not fun. Yeah, it could be exciting for teams, because we've seen over the last couple of years that the best team doesn't always win. It's always the hottest team. So a team that barely got in, is the 14th team in the playoffs, might get hot at the right time and might win the World Series. That's fun for a lot of fans, but at the same time, it can water down the actual competition in the playoffs. So I like the DH, even though I'm a National League fan. I think it makes the most sense. But universal DH and 14-team playoffs seems like both agree upon. So that's two things that are out the window. But the core economic talks is going to be key to this CBA. And that's what we're going to have to look at, especially with the proposal that the Players Union is going to give the owners on Monday. So we'll look and see what will go on with that, guys. Once again, guys, if you enjoyed this video, hit on that like button. If you enjoy my content, want to see more, want to get notified when I post my videos and when I go live, you guys know what to do. Hit on that subscribe button, everybody. Let me know in the comments what you think. Are you on the side of the players or the owners? In my case, I'm kind of in between, only because I think you got billionaires and millionaires fighting over a little bit of extra money when both of them are not going to be, poor in the coming days. They're not the average man. They make well over the median salary in the country, and players make more than enough money to get by. And they're not even worried about minor leaguers who are making the least amount of money. But the biggest thing is, what do you guys think the CBA is going to entail? Are the owners going to be the winner or the players? And let me know what other things that I haven't said that you think should be in the CBA. Let me know in the comments, guys. I really appreciate all the support, guys. And as always, Met fans, let's go Mets.